Hey everyone, it's Grandmaster Ben Finegold here. Well, instead of showing old games that I lost, I'll show you current games. These games were both played today at the Invitational GM Norm Tournament here in St. Louis. My games were very short, so I think I can stick to it in one video. Nakamura won a very long game against Aronian, I would say 5 hours. I had two quick draws, although they weren't quick time-wise, there just weren't many moves. Now, in round one, I had white against Andranik Matikozian. I usually play d4, but I prepared e4. And he always plays the knight orf. And I prepared this move, knight c3, to meet knight f6 with e5. And this is the line that I had analyzed in preparation for the game. And he's played knight f6 before, and his opponent didn't play e5. So I looked at some lines. And then he wouldn't prepare for this since he's never faced it before, and I've never played it before. Anyway, so of course he played a6 on move 3, which is another way to play a knight orf. So now if I play d4, then, he'll trade and play knight f6, and he plays the knight orf, and I don't play the white side of a knight orf. So after a6, I started thinking 5 to 10 minutes on every single move, which is a bit silly. So I played bishop e2, which is okay. And he played e5, making sure I can never play d4. Since all his pawns are in dark squares, I played bishop c4. He can't play e6 anymore. So I've lost the tempo, but okay, I have all my pieces out. And he doesn't have any pieces out. Well, knight f6 is exceedingly risky because I'll play knight g5, attacking the f7 pawn. So he played bishop e7, which is fine. I played d3, knight c6. And now I have a funny move which I hadn't considered, I must admit. Knight to g5. And the idea is if he takes, I play queen h5, threatening checkmate and the bishop. Okay, and this is okay for black too. Knight g5 doesn't really give white an advantage, but it was an interesting move. I could have played it. Okay, so I played knight to d2, and the idea, which is pretty standard, is to play knight takes king, knight f1, knight e3, and total domination of d5, which I ended up doing. Although he traded off his bad bishop in the meantime. He played bishop to g5. That's his bad bishop because all his pawns are in dark squares. Okay, and I played knight f1 like I planned, traded bishops. Now, this is the only trade of pieces in both games. In my next game, there were no trades. So there were 16 pawns on the board in the final position of both games. Okay, knight f6, knight e3, both castled, bishop e6. And at this point, I'd already used over an hour because I was thinking so long in every move. I didn't really know what to do. Computer says everything's equal in all positions. I played knight cd5 and offered a draw. I was 45 to 50 minutes behind on the clock. Positions equal. My opponent accepted, and so that was game one. Okay, so not very exciting, although it had more trades than the next game. Okay, next game, I have the black pieces. So I guess I should flip the board somehow. Let's see. How can I flip the board? I got to move something around here. Okay. So I'm black against Ashwin Jayaram. And he's from India. So some places list him as Jayaram Ashwin and some list him as Ashwin Jayaram. So anyway, he's played at the club a lot because he's going to Webster University and he's one of their better players. And he's trying to get a GM norm. He played d4, which is what he plays. And I decided at the board to play sort of a substandard opening that I play a lot. Knight f6, c5, the check or the block Benoni. I have good results with this, and usually I get a big time advantage because my opponents don't know this as well as I do. I have maybe 40 to 50 games in the last 20 years in this position, and usually my opponents have between 0 and 3. So this isn't like their main, focus of their life. Okay, so this position's pretty common. I've had this many times. Some people play h3 here, some play g3, some play knight e2, some play knight f3, some play bishop d3. My opponent played g3, which I think is a good move, especially against me, because I like this really weird maneuver, knight d7 to f8 to g6. I'm probably the only grandmaster who does that, frequently. Okay, so I did it, and we got this position. I've had this position twice. One of my opponents played h3, and I beat him. My other opponent played a3 to play b4. He was crushing me, and somehow we drew. In fact, when we agreed to a draw, I was completely lost. Okay, so castles, I've never had this position before, this exact position. Now my opponent played h3. Okay, computers obviously like white because white has this big space advantage. Unlike the first game where I was way, way behind on the clock, it was the opposite here. I was moving in 10 to 30 seconds a move, and my opponent was taking 5-10 minutes a move like I did the first game. So I had a big time advantage already. Okay, bishop d7, completing development. There's two ideas. I want to play queen c8 and harass him on h3, and I want to play a6, b5, and my bishop on d7 is well placed for that. Okay, so bishop e3, developing his last piece, queen c8. Sometimes white may want to play bishop takes c5 and then d6, getting his piece back. I'm not sure if he wants to do that, but after queen c8, he's not going to do that because I defended my c pawn. Okay, and I'm threatening the h3 pawn, obviously, so he plays king h2. Now, I'm really afraid when my opponents play b4 and open up the b file. It's very hard for him to do now because my queen's on c8. So, for example, if he could cheat and play a3, b4 here, I would take it, and then my queen would take on c4. So it's sort of hard for him to play b4. That's the only thing I'm really worried about. So I played a6 to play b5. He played the natural a4, and now it's very hard for him to play b4. And I played h5. At this point, I started with 90 minutes, and I had 88 minutes on my clock. We have a 30-second increment. And he had about 40 minutes. And I offered a draw. Computer still says white's better because, it likes the space. But probably black's about equal here. Position's pretty blocked in the center. And my opponent thought about 10 minutes and accepted because he didn't like the time situation. So that was a real easy draw with black, unlike my difficult draw with white where I basically wasn't moving. This game I moved pretty quickly because I was more familiar with the opening. Well, tomorrow I have white against Raja Panjwani in round 3, and then black against Grandmaster Denis Boros in round 4. So far, Sam Sevian's in clear first, 2 out of 2. If Sevian gets +3, I think that'll push him to 2,500 and he'll get the GM title. He has all of his norms. He just needs 2,500 FIDE. Tied for second are Priyadarshan and Brigadzi. They have 1.5 out of 2. Denis Boros has all decisive games. He lost in round 1 to Sevian, and he won in round 2 against Gorovets. So I'm tied for, I guess, 4th with probably 3 or 4 people with 1 out of 2. And that's what's going on in our tournament. And again, I probably mentioned it earlier in the video, but Nakamura did beat Aroni, and that game was about 5 hours. Okay, so that was today at the Chess Club and Scholastic Center of St. Louis, the GM Norm Tournament. There's an IM Norm Tournament. Everything you can watch online, go to uschesschamps.com, go to stlouischessclub.org, and you can watch Nakamura Aronian, all the GM games, all the IM games, and live analysis with Yasser Sarawan, Jennifer Shahadi, and Maurice Ashley. If you go to my blog, you'll actually see lots and lots of links to different places you can go to watch live analysis, the games, the standings, the pairings, the prize fund, all that good stuff, pictures. Okay, so I'll try to make a video tomorrow with both of my games, but that'll probably be 2 videos. I'm expecting some longer games tomorrow. Well, this is Grandmaster Ben Finegold. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you enjoyed my other videos. Sorry I didn't win, but like my other videos, I scored 1 point. It's just that this time it took me 2 games. Okay, bye everybody.